Well, welcome back to Simple Steps for the Whole You podcast. Last week, you heard Michelle and I talk about living gracefully. And when we started talking about that topic, a particular person came to mind, and that's who we're going to interview, or I get the pleasure of interviewing Kim Anderson today. And so Kim Anderson has worked in the healthcare field for over 40 years as a chiropractor and has training in Christian life coaching and Flourish in life coaching, LiveWell Health coaching, and she's a Revelation Wellness Group fitness instructor. She's been married for 39 years to Pete. She's a mother of 4 adult married children and a grandmother of 10. She has always had a special interest in women's overall health and well-being through a holistic perspective. And her passion is to help women in living softer become who they were created to be as they journey the various seasons of life. So welcome, Kim.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here. And I got the pleasure of meeting Kim through our LiveWell Health Coach training. She was my small group leader as I went through training. So I got to hear a little bit of her story and I wanted to hear more. So you guys get to hear now today.
That was so fun.
So, yeah, it's going to be fun. So we've been talking about graceful living on our podcast in different formats, and last week we really focused in on that. But you use a different term for that, and I really like it. What is your term that you use for graceful living?
Yeah, I use the term living softer. And so that's been something that's been on my heart for several years. And it was part of what came together after I read a book years ago in like 2010 by John Ortberg called Me, I Want to Be. And his point was we need to learn to live softer and not try to be somebody we're not, and live who God made us to be. And so that's kind of where that concept came. And also I was trying to not be so hard on myself and make life so hard. So the living softer just kind of hit my heart in the right place.
Yeah, yeah. Those words just bring about a feeling in me when I think about that. Living softer is just beautiful. And listeners, you might be thinking about the book Try Softer by Andy Colbert out a couple years ago or something, but God brought this idea to Kim well before that. So there's not a connection, although we've talked about how there are some similarities to the idea of leaning into God and living softer. So the idea ended up leading you to blogging, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I started a blog, and at that point in my life, there had been a lot of things going on, and kids growing up, and a lot of bumps in the road. And I decided to have a blog to just get my thoughts out and to learn how to not get a hardened heart, but to keep my heart soft. And so that was really helpful for me.
Yeah. I love that you took what God was teaching you and you were using it to, share that with others.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I'd love to hear more of your story here, like the progression that you've gone through to come to this place of living softer yourself.
Sure. Well, we, like I said before, we've had a lot of interesting things in our life go on. With 4 kids, you have a lot of things that happen, and things don't always go the way you plan. And it was just a lot of different things where I thought, oh, I'm doing everything right, Lord. I'm doing everything the way I think it should be, and it wasn't happening the way I thought it should. It wasn't an A+B=C equation. And so I needed to try to figure out how can everything not be so hard? How can I do things and still enjoy life and enjoy my kids, even though the outcomes sometimes weren't what I thought they should be? And so as we went through all of the kids with all the things that kids go through, and my husband had some sicknesses and he had cancer, and we went through that, and just different life things that we all have to navigate. I just
Yeah.
needed to learn to accept what God was putting before me and to understand that He had a path for me. And it was maybe a little different than what I thought it was going to be, but it was going to be a good path.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And that has led, it didn't only lead to blogs, but it has also led to some workshops that you've led on
Yeah.
this topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I've been in our church. I've had the opportunity to lead some different little workshops and things, and then through the life coaching and the the Revelation Wellness training, and
Yeah.
just even the LiveWell training too now. And then I've done some
Mm-hmm.
more mentor training and other things on the side. And those,
Mm-hmm.
I think God just kept putting those things in my life. What happened was all of my kids moved away, and I was like, okay, Lord, now what do I do? And I only work part
Yeah.
time. So I had the idea of coaching on my mind for a long time. So what happened is He ended up putting me, giving me space in my life to go ahead and do some online coaching training. And then He put me in
Mm-hmm.
another coaching thing. And then I wanted, well, I'll tell you the story. I ended up, desiring to get moving again because I used to be pretty good
Mm-hmm.
at keeping active, and then through life and kids and all of the things, I kind of neglected
Mm-hmm.
the my body and my exercise a little bit. So there was
Okay.
one January that I went ahead and said, Lord, I delight in you. I want to delight in you. I
Mm-hmm.
also
Yeah.
know that you delight in me, but what in the world, what can I delight in for moving my body? And that's a longer story, but
Yeah.
God dropped the Revelation Wellness instructor training in there, and then that's been kind of a
Mm-hmm.
catalyst to a lot of other things now too.
Mm. Yeah. It's very powerful. That Revelation Wellness training
Hmm.
is very powerful, impactful in our lives for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so you've been learning the joy of living softer. And I love
Yeah.
that term, learning the joy of living softer. And you continue to work as a chiropractor right now, and
Hmm.
you have all the coaching and mentoring and things going on too. So I'm wondering, what does that look like in your life right now? And maybe you touch on each area or however you want to answer that, but learning the joy of living softer, what's that look like in your life now?
Sure. Well, I've tried to step back and be wherever it is God has me at that time.
Mm,
So when I'm
yeah.
working, I'm here and I'm with the people who come and trying to encourage them and help them along with whatever it is that they are coming to
Mm,
see me for. And
yeah.
I try to, I'm active in our women's mentoring program at church, so I do some of that.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that we've done over the years is been active in our church too, and with Bible studies and things like that. So the living softer part of it, I would say for personally, is
Mm-hmm.
trying not to get myself all worked up about whatever's going on in the day, and stepping
Mm,
back and giving it to the Lord and trying to
yeah.
have have a good perspective, and be present where I'm at.
Yeah. Being present sounds like a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grandkids have helped me get that perspective a little bit because they all moved back, and now I have grandkids that live near me. So I can
Oh,
experience the living softer and the joy through that. And there have been times when I thought, oh, I didn't really maybe live as softly and understand what was going on with my own kids because you're trying to make things happen. And I think
yeah.
through all the training, I'm a little bit more present now, and
Mm,
I can look
mm-hmm.
at them and just have the joy of being with them and seeing them grow,
Yeah.
and that's been fun.
Yeah. That's great. I love that how God gives us another chance. I haven't entered that yet, but with grandparenting, you get another chance to have a
Yeah,
crack at
yeah,
it.
it's a different ball game.
That's right. That's right. So in your learning and in your writing and things, you talk about 8 areas that you focus on. Can you
Yeah.
share with us some of those?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, as it kind of came together, I had done a workshop several years ago I don't remember when it was exactly, but I had some categories. So I kind of went through body, mind, soul, and spirit. And actually, I started with body, mind, soul, and then the spirit was just the extra part, but then it kind of came together. So the body, what we pay attention to and what I talk about are different ways of eating well, which would be kind of your nourishment, moving well, which is your animation, your movement of your body, and then under the mind, so that would be your body, and then mind would be thinking well. What are you thinking about? Think about what you're thinking about, what's your mindset, and then choosing well, which would be the actions from whatever it is you're thinking. And our choices, our life is our choices. So that's part of the mind part of it. And then the soul would be connecting well with others, with the people around you, and being present with them, and then communicating well or communing well, which would be in your heart. So we communicate with others, but we also need to communicate with our Creator. And we do that through prayer and just being in His creation. So the other part then would be the spirit, which is resting well, which is, I know it sounds kind of funny, but it actually fits well with our spirit because our spirits are what need the rest. So that's when our bodies can repair, renew themselves. And the renewal part is actually from recreating. So we are made by a creator in his image, and recreating, creating is part of what we do. And so we need to find things that we can do that are creative, and that's helpful in our renewal and our transformation.
I love all of that. So good. And I just love the words, the simplicity of it. Eat well, move well. It's not, you didn't overcomplicate it. You kept it,
Yeah.
easy to understand. Anyone could read those words and figure, okay, I know what she's saying there.
Yeah. That's what
And then
in
you
my
can,
life I need to kind of do that. Just bring it down to the lowest common denominator.
yes. Yeah. We all need that. I believe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Are there any, I'm just wondering if when you're like, maybe in your own life, you could answer this from, or maybe in mentoring and coaching others, is there one or two of those that are particularly challenging that you find?
Yes, what comes to mind first for me is the thinking well.
Uh-huh.
I think
Mm,
I really think that um, a lot of the troubles that we have are because we have old thoughts that come in, or we have
yeah.
generational thoughts that sit in our hearts yet, that
Yeah.
don't let us be present. And I think sometimes the words we're speaking to ourselves are not
Hmm.
speaking life; they're unhelpful. And I think when we really look at where our lives are going, I think a lot of it has to do with how we think. And even pretty much a lot of everything lands on that. So if I would pick one thing, that would probably be one of the bigger things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that a lot too. Not only with myself, but other women that I coach and things, the
Mhm.
lies that are so sneaky. And there's
Yeah.
sometimes that they've been there so long that we don't even recognize that they are there.
Yeah.
And
They're
this,
just
and
uncovered.
sometimes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we even feel shame that they are there.
Mhm.
Like there's this, resistant to even admit that I'm thinking that way about
Yeah.
myself, or, thinking those thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about when we don't want to recognize that we're thinking is that it's shoved under the blanket there and we can't get to it. And as soon as we open it up and we're able to recognize it and say it, we have a
Hmm.
different perspective on it already. And it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like shame, or,
Yeah.
and we don't have to be afraid of it anymore.
Mm, yeah. So good. And then I just think about how after that, I mean, No, does the order matter in the way that you listed the eight
No, they're just
areas?
categorized that way. That's just my way of
Okay,
looking at
okay.
it. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about, I love the beauty in that though, thinking about the thinking well and the shame involved in that. And then next up on the list was connecting well. And
Hmm.
it's just another part of that, like bringing things into the light, right? Connecting
Yeah.
with others, then.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
isolation in our world today and has been a really hard thing for us, especially in the last few years. But
Yeah.
God really needs us to connect. We need to other people in our
Hmm.
lives, and um,
Yeah.
I think that's just a really important thing for everybody
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be face to face and be with other people. And yeah, I'll
Hmm.
speak to that also. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. I really like that. Um, so often Michelle and I will kind of, when we're doing our planning, we'll kind of pause and think about women that are really in the thick of it, like the busyness, maybe in the rushing women, rushing woman
Yeah.
mode, like we talked about. Yeah. So either working, parenting, both, just living with that sense of urgency.
Hmm.
So can a busy woman um, is it really possible for them to live that way, living softer?
I think it is.
Hmm.
And I will say, I don't think I did it well.
Mm.
um, but that's part of my mission today is to be with
Yeah.
other young moms and women in midlife to help them walk through it a better way.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
think one of the things that in my life and in the growing, God had, I think He plants so many wonderful things and ideas in our hearts and our minds.
Yeah.
And I do believe He gives us things way before they're ripe and fruitful. And so I
Mm.
think
Yeah.
what we need to recognize is that we can do a lot of things in our life, but we can't do them all at the same time. And there's
Mm.
different seasons for different things. And when we can go ahead and understand that He's planting things in us, like the coaching thing was, that was at least 10 years before I ever did it.
Mm. Wow.
Because I was in the thick of high school kids and junior high kids and all of the things. And
Yeah.
but the wonderful thing about it, and you and I have talked about this, is to be able to look back and see
Mm.
God planted it back then, and He was
Yeah.
faithful to bring it to fruition
Mm.
in a different season in my life. And so I can
Yeah.
trust Him and have the hope now that the things He's
Mm.
put in my heart today will become what He wants it to be as time goes on in my life and those that He's called me to be with and minister to and live life with.
Mm. Mm. Boy, that really hits me because I'll think I love what you said about how God plants ideas in our minds and our hearts and everything. And when I am overwhelmed, it's often because I'm taking in all of those ideas and thinking I need to do it right now.
Yeah.
Like it's all, this is, but that is not God's way. He doesn't overwhelm us, right? So
No.
that can be my checkpoint of like, wait, if he called me to this, it doesn't mean that it's right now. It might mean it's right now, but it might be 10
Right.
years from now.
Right. And I think if we can just remember that He just is always forming new things, He's doing a new thing in us all the time.
Mm,
And when we go ahead and just take it in and ask Him, what part of that is for now, Lord, and what part are you just building in me at this point that you're going to ask me to do something with some other time in my life?
mm. I think that's going to be really important for our listeners. I know it is for me. It's impacting me, that idea of like, what's for right now, God?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
do you have for me right now? What's for later? And when I do jump ahead, not only do I feel overwhelmed, but He hasn't worked it all out in me yet. Like I'm trying to maybe teach someone something that He's still working on me,
Yeah.
and I'm jumping ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, we can be kind and soft hearted in that part too when we
Yeah.
realize that
Yeah.
maybe I think we have to just have the conversation with Him. And, Lord,
Hmm.
I am feeling overwhelmed. What part of
Yeah.
things are of you and what part right now aren't what you
Mm-hmm.
need from me.
Yeah.
um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think too, be present with the things before you. Young
Yeah.
moms have so much going on today, and there's so many
Yeah.
things, so much more even than when I
Mm-hmm.
was raising my kids. But I think
Yeah.
they need to figure out what's their season right now, and what
Mm-hmm.
works best for them at this point in time. And it might look
Yeah.
different in 3 months, 6 months. I said the only thing I've told my kids with kids, I said the only thing
Mm-hmm.
constant in life is change.
Mm,
And so if
true.
you're in a season that's a little hard, it's going to get better. And if you're in a good
Yeah.
season, know that there might be a bump coming up, but you'll get through that too.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So helpful. Um, so since we're called Simple Steps, I have
Yeah,
to ask you if you have simple steps or habits that you would want to offer someone. So thinking
yeah,
maybe of that busy woman. Um, they're trying to live
sure.
softer. And I love that you brought up like even bringing that to God, like so that we're not getting overwhelmed in that idea of like, well, now I need to try to live softer. Oh my gosh, but
Yeah,
bringing that to him, like I'm overwhelmed, God, and we
yeah,
get to bring those needs to him. But
yeah.
what are some steps or habits that you might
Sure, we
suggest?
can get overwhelmed if we try to do too many things, and there's always
Yeah,
another thing we can do. But
yeah.
in the little bit of like just I have a little thing that's called 8 ways to softly reset your day. And it takes those
Mm,
8 categories, two in each of the body, mind, soul, and spirit. And these were just little thoughts from the workshop that I have put together. So one would be eat reset. So take a break and eat a healthy snack and drink some water.
mm,
Move reset. Here's your 1 minute energy boost. Move your body for 1 minute any way that feels good. Walk, jump, dance, skip, stretch. There you go, go, go. Don't you feel energized now? So, and then number
mm,
3 would be a think reset. What good thought can you think right now? Any,
mm,
anything big or small or hopeful, good, kind, or gentle. Number 4
mm,
would be a choice reset. What positive choice can you make in the space you are in at this very moment? Choose it. Number
mm,
5 would be connect reset. Call a friend, visit a neighbor, write a note, or talk to a loved one. Number
mm,
6, commune reset or the communicate reset. Talk to God about your present moment, feelings, thoughts. Let Him whisper back to your heart. Number 7, rest reset. Lie down, stretch out, close your eyes and breathe. Let your circulation bring oxygen back to your brain and negate the muscles' heaviness of gravity for 2 minutes. You will be refreshed. And number 8
mm,
would be recreate reset. Take 5 minutes to play and be creative. Let your mind wander and wonder about new ideas and possibilities, new interests, hobbies, or sports or whatever. And for me, that's playing with my
mm,
grandchildren.
mm. Yes. Oh, I love that list. 8 ways to softly reset your day. I love that.
And you don't
That's
have to
good.
do them all.
Yeah, yes, we were talking about that. That yeah, there are 8 options, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
8 things to try, and yeah. Have you found that? Have you found one more than others, or more? I don't know, easily accessed maybe, or
Yeah, I
quickly,
think that
works quicker.
well, you guys have talked about breathing, but for me, just getting, we're a lot of the times in offices inside a lot today. And I think stepping
Yeah.
outside, and even John Mark Comer talks about that, getting out
Hmm.
in the morning or in the
Yeah.
evening, or just even whenever you can just pop yourself out for a little bit and see a
Yeah.
wider perspective. I think that helps.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, I even found, because I'm in Washington, so it
Hmm.
rains a lot here in the winter, and I mean, let's face it, it rains a lot here, other seasons too. But I even found last year sometimes in the winter, just finding myself like going to the closest window and just
Hmm.
looking out at the window, and I couldn't. I would prefer fresh air, but some days I don't want to go out there when it's really wet.
Yeah.
So even just looking out the window and just kind of taking my focus off of what all is in front of me and just looking up
Right.
at the sky and,
Yeah.
just changing my perspective that way.
Yes, definitely. I think that's a huge way to do it. And I think the sunlight does help a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And listeners will have that list for you, so you'll be able to save that list that Kim shared with you. So, Kim, what's your favorite life-giving habit? I know it's probably hard to choose one.
Yeah. Well, my favorite life-giving habit, I think, is I like to in some way acknowledge God every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I love to study my Bible, but that's not always the the way I do it. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
just um, whatever spiritual pathway. We talked about the outside. It's summer here in Wisconsin. I love it, and I love to be outside when I can in the mornings. I
Mm-hmm.
love the sunrise and sunsets. So I would say sunrise, sunsets, walking. Those are really
Mm-hmm.
my favorite right now.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. And then what's a habit you've done so long you don't even remember how or when it started?
Well, you know, I think one of the habits I've done all my life, and it just,
Mm-hmm.
I love, and it sounds interesting, maybe not interesting, but I just love having time to chat with people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that's a habit that I generally do. And it's not, I maybe isn't the kind of habit that you think. The other habit that I guess I've always turned to. So chatting and
Mm-hmm.
being in community is probably an important thing with me. But the other thing that's probably a personal habit ever since I was in high school, maybe, I don't even know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was before that, is music. I love some type of
Mm.
music in my life, and
Yeah.
usually music comes with dancing or movement or whatever. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think probably music.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I want to ask you about the chatting with people. Is that even like chatting with a stranger when you're at the store kind of thing? Or is it like, or are you thinking about it more of like scheduling in like time to chat with a friend and family member and
Yeah,
things like that? Yeah.
it would be both, but I am that person
Okay.
that'll. I guess I like to be able to be aware of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like God has given me a heart of a shepherd, a helper, and
Mm. Yeah.
I like to I like to see people, and I like to
Yeah.
see,
Mm-hmm.
does she need help? What does she need?
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm that person that'll come up and talk to you in Walmart or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
help some
Yep.
that because I just like to be aware of my surroundings and if people are in need.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's more a part of just the normal me, and that might have been the way I
Yeah.
was brought up, but I think it's part of who
Mm.
God made me to be too. And I love
Mm-hmm.
serving in community. I would say one
Mm-hmm.
of the best things for anybody to do, and one of the things that's been probably one of the most beautiful things in my life, is being active
Mm-hmm.
in my local church and
Mm-hmm.
doing regular Bible studies, either
Yeah.
facilitating or taking them, and then
Yeah.
serving. One of the best
Mm.
ways to get a group of friends, one of my dearest groups of friends, still to this
Mm-hmm.
day, are people I did children's ministry with years ago.
Mm. That's awesome.
So, yeah, so find
Yeah.
your people, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Find your people. I'm just thinking about how I love the idea of serving and I love doing it, like serving at church and serving in community and everything. And I also can see how I can see the flip side of that, how it can veer away from living softer and
Right.
get into that place of oh, I signed up for 25 things next week and now I have to
Mhm.
do it can veer into that. So what are your thoughts on keeping it in that living softer way?
Good. That's a great question. So I probably did that at one point in my life, or maybe more than one point. But I think we have to start to really bring it to the Lord and say, I will just say sometimes if you start overdoing this, the Lord will just make a change for us. And he did that for
Yes.
me. And then when he did that for me, it kind of brought everything up to the surface where I could talk to him about it and say, this doesn't feel good. I thought I was doing what you wanted, but I didn't plan this, and you took me out of that serving space, and it hurt and it was hard. But at today, I can see why he did it, and he knew I needed rest. He knew I needed to take a break, and he knew he had something different for me. So I would say too, when you're doing something and it doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel like God's helping you. I mean, there's also things that are challenging, and that's not what I'm talking about. But I think we know in our heart, if our heart is soft and not hard, because it's always when people harden their hearts that we're not hearing God's whisper. So I think when we can really bring it to him, I know I keep saying that, but that's true. And and I think, we can recognize, if you look at those 8 different places in your life, if you look at the ways of living softer, something's going to be awry somewhere there. If you're serving too much, you're putting out too much energy, and also your thinking will turn. Also, you won't have the joy in your heart, and you won't have the softness in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. And when we just invite God in and seek Him and ask Him, what do you have for me here? I know my family and I were involved in a ministry years ago that we had done a few years in a row. And then it was a yearly thing, an annual thing. And then, like, the third or fourth year came along, and none of the volunteers were coming forward to help. And it started to feel really yucky, and God made it clear that just because you'd always done this, or maybe your church had always done this, it didn't need to keep happening, or maybe it was someone else's turn to step up, and that was hard for me because I am a very routine person. But that was when I started to see, like, oh, I had just said it's that time of year again, I'm going to do this again, and I hadn't invited God in, or we hadn't as a family, and said, like, well, we've done this the last couple of years. Do you want us to do this again, God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And when I hear you saying that, that's happened in my life also too. And what happens is when the ministry or the serving becomes our baby, becomes our thing that we're doing, and we feel completely responsible for it. And I think when we do that, God says, well, wait a minute, this is my thing. And I wanted you to do this, but now I need you to look over here and do something else. And so I think he's very gentle and kind to make a nice change in our life, especially when we're very responsible and we think, and that's the thinking we've had in our minds all our life, is that I said I'd do this and now I have to do it forever again. And that's not what he's asking us to do. He's just asking us to do what he's asking us today.
Yeah. Well, that's a good filter. What is He asking me to do today?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Well, so listeners and viewers, if you're watching on YouTube, how could they contact you, Kim, if they wanted to hear more about your workshops and just follow you and, see the things that you post and things like that?
Sure. I don't at this point have a website or anything, but I do have Instagram, Living Softer Life. And they could also email me, livingsofterlife@gmail.com.
Okay. That's good. And so our steps that we want to offer you for this episode is, I want to encourage you to look at the list that we will have in the show notes, that Kim offered you, the eight areas, or the 8 daily resets, the 8 ways to softly reset your day. Look that over prayerfully and ask God, which one of those can I start with today? And I'll just list the focus areas: eat well, move well, think well, choose well, connect well, commune well, rest well, and recreate well. And so anyway, you will have a visual to look at either in the show notes or on social media. You can go back and listen to when Kim shared a little nugget about each of those areas, and then choose one to start with. And Kim, when you have coached people, is there usually like one or two that you end up saying, if you're not sure where to start, I would start with this?
Yeah, I think movement is really good. We sit too much, and and I think we
Yeah.
just need to get up and move our bodies. And I think that, and then you know, mind your mind.
Yeah. Mind your mind.
Yeah,
Focus, tend to what you're thinking, right? Like
yeah,
think about what you're thinking. Yeah. Hmm. Well,
yeah.
so good, Kim. Thank you so much. Any last things or?
Oh, thank you for having me. This has
Okay.
been wonderful to have time to chat with you about all of this. And I hope
Yeah.
everybody can just take time to learn to live softer.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. We are so glad you joined us today, and we hope we've inspired you to take that one simple step for the whole you.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast, would you help us spread the word by passing it on to your friends and family, and also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram, and those links are in the show notes. And as always, consult your healthcare provider before implementing any major exercise or diet changes. We hope to see you next week. Bye.